pleasure today to introduce the Chairman of the National Maritime Foundation, Admiral RK Dhowan, PVSM, AVSM, YSM, former Chief of the Naval Staff of the Republic of India. Admiral Dhowan has had a very illustrious naval career, spanning some 4 decades. He has commanded 3 frontline warships of the Western Fleet and later commanded the Eastern Fleet as well. As may be imagined, he has held several critical shore assignments as well. He was our naval advisor at the Indian High Commission at London between 2002 and 2005. And ever since then, he has remained intimately concerned with the development of the policies and plans of the Indian Navy. He has also distinguished himself as the Commandant of the National Defence Academy at Karakwasla. He served with great distinction as the Deputy Chief of the Naval Staff and the Vice Chief of the Naval Staff before assuming command of the Indian Navy on 17th April 2014 as our 22nd Chief of the Naval Staff. He retired on 31st May 2016 and took over as the 5th Chairman of the National Maritime Foundation. To launch the 2019 edition of the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue, may I now invite Admiral Dhowan to deliver the inaugural address. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome the Chairman, NMF.
Chairman, Chiefs of Staffs Committee and Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Sunil Lamba, former Chairman, Chiefs of Staffs Committee and Chief of the Naval Staff, Admiral Arun Prakash, Excellencies, former Chiefs of Navies from other countries, senior officers of the armed forces, both serving and retired, distinguished guests, eminent participants, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a distinct honor for me to accord a very warm welcome to all of you for the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue 2019. The Indo-Pacific region has emerged as the world's economic and strategic center of gravity in the maritime domain, and the waters of the Indian Ocean and the Indo-Pacific region as the global economic highways for transit of seaborne trade. India sits astride busy sea lines of communication which transit across the Indian Ocean and the Indo-Pacific region, over which nearly 1 billion tons of oil transit every year. And these oil arteries and trade routes lead further east to the ASEAN and countries like Japan, South Korea, and China. But the seas are no longer a benign medium, and globalization has resulted in vulnerability of the oceans. Safety, security, and stability on the waters of the Indo-Pacific are therefore of paramount importance, because the maritime interests of the countries of the region are intrinsically linked to unfettered flow of oil and trade across the entire Indo-Pacific region. In the past few years, India has taken significant initiatives for sustainable development in the maritime domain, including the quest to harness the blue economy and the transition from the Look East to the Act East policy. As far as India's perspective of the Indo-Pacific is concerned, this has been spelled out by our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, when he defined the bounds as extending from the shores of Africa to those of the Americas. Speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue in June 2019, the Honorable Prime Minister of India made 3 important statements, and I will try and capture the gist of these statements, which relate to a rules-based international order. First, India believes that there is a need for a common rules-based order which is equally applicable to individual nations as well as the global commons. Such an order must believe in sovereignty, territorial integrity, as well as equality of all nations. Such rules and norms must be made with consent of all, and not just the power of a few. He also mentioned that when nations make international commitments, they must uphold them. Second, we all must have equal access and rights under the international law and freedom of navigation to common spaces both at sea and in the air. We must resort to peaceful means for settlement of disputes in accordance with the international law. And when we agree to abide by such a code, then our sea lanes will be pathways of prosperity and corridors of peace. Third, India will promote a rules-based international order in which all countries, big and small, thrive as equals. To achieve this, India will engage the world in peace, with respect, through dialogue, and with total commitment to international law, unquote. The oceans are a common heritage of mankind, and the countries of the region need to work together to evolve a rules-based international order. The current conference is the second in the series of the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue, and it is a privilege for the National Maritime Foundation to partner with the Indian Navy for its apex-level seminar, which evaluates India's challenges and opportunities in the Indo-Pacific. This year's conference will span over 5 professional themes. First, achieving cohesion across the Indo-Pacific through maritime connectivity. In addition to the Belt and Road Initiative, the other options for connectivity in the Indo-Pacific range from the International North-South Transport Corridor, the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, the Project MOSM, which is an initiative of India for connectivity between peoples and cultures, the Free and Open Indo-Pacific, and the Sagar concept, which stands for security and growth for all in the region. It will be our endeavor to examine various connectivity options to promote trade and maritime cooperation so as to generate partnership for prosperity in the maritime domain. The second theme relates to attaining and maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific. The instabilities and turbulence in some parts of the Indo-Pacific region have the potential to spill over into the maritime domain, and the situation can best be described as fragile. India has advocated adherence to international law and maintenance and promotion of peace and stability, maritime safety and security, freedom of navigation, and overflight in the region. During the deliberations of this session, we will look and analyze at the operative words and ask the challenging questions. Free and open, for whom? And whose rules are we to abide by? It will be our endeavor to chart the way ahead to shape a favorable maritime environment in the Indo-Pacific region. A regional approach to the blue economy is the third theme of this conference. Humankind has turned towards the seas for resources, and there is a misperception that the oceans are an unending resource base and an infinite sink. Nothing could be further away from reality. Over the past few decades, we have witnessed indiscriminate pollution of the oceans and contamination of the natural marine habitat, resulting in a detrimental impact of climate change on the oceans. Harnessing the blue economy as a concept envisages economic development of all our maritime interests by optimal and efficient utilization of our resources with minimum impact on the environment and ensuring sustainable development of the oceans. It will be our endeavor to examine the options for maritime cooperation with the littoral countries in the region to harness the blue economy during this session. Maritime Industry 4.0, skill development and employment opportunities is the fourth theme of the seminar. The advent of Industry 4.0 is already having a significant impact because of artificial intelligence-based robotics, blockchains, big data analytics, and Internet of Things. There is a need for specialized skill development for generating employment opportunities for our maritime industrial workforce to thrive in an Industry 4.0 environment. The countries of the Indo-Pacific region will also need to imbibe the best practices from other countries in the world which are considered leaders in the transition to Industry 4.0. The last theme of the seminar and the conference will be achieving complementarity between Sagarmala and the Sagar concept. As you're all aware, Sagarmala is a unique initiative for port-led development taken by the government, which is based on 4 pillars of port modernization, connectivity, port-led industrialization, and coastal community development. Sagarmala envisages development of transshipment hubs, greenfield port infrastructure with minimum carbon footprint, and connectivity of our ports to the hinterland through multimodal road and rail connectivity and development of inland waterways. During this session, we will look at the integration between Sagarmala and the Sagar concept, which is the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister of India for security and growth for all in the region, and we will see how we can extend the development of port infrastructure to our littoral neighborhood and the other countries of the region to provide an ecosystem of trade and connectivity across the entire Indo-Pacific region. The seas around us are gaining newfound importance as each day goes by, and I have no doubt that the current century is the century of the seas. India has vast maritime interests which have a vital relationship with the nation's economic growth, and the recent initiatives taken by India in the maritime domain are pointers to indicate that India has once again turned towards the seas and is destined to emerge as a resurgent maritime nation. I would like to take this opportunity to once again welcome all our distinguished guests and the esteemed participants for the Indo-Pacific Regional Dialogue. I'm sure that the vibrant deliberations during the conference will pave the way and provide some insights and path-breaking suggestions for enhancing maritime cooperation across the Indo-Pacific and to ensure peace, stability, safety, security, and prosperity across the entire Indo-Pacific region. Jai Hind.